It is a cloudy and muggy day out here in Allen Park, but we are all set for Lions Training Camp Live, presented by Rocket Mortgage. Hello and welcome into the show. I'm your host, Tori Petrie. The field is all quiet behind me right now because practice has actually been pushed back about a half hour, but the show goes on. We are still live here at 10 a.m., and that just means more coverage for you guys today. Today's show is all about the wide receivers and the tight ends. We have plenty to talk about. This is a deep position group that has been making a lot of plays through camp. We will welcome in Tim Twentyman to talk about some of the top plays through training camp so far. He will break down those plays for us, and then later on in the show, Lions legend Herman Moore will join us to give his thoughts on this wide receiver group that returns its starters and also welcomes in a few new faces to the room. We are so excited to bring all of this content to you today. That is coming up a little later on. Players will be on the field around 10:45, so you'll see them start rolling in a little bit before then. So before we get to that part of the show, we want to give you guys a look at our show called Inside the Den. It's something that the Lions put out every training camp. It's an inside look at what goes on behind the scenes during training camp. So take a look at this week's episode of Inside the Den.
Finish this thing off right. Yep. Get some juice. Let's get it going.
Here we go. Here we go. Team three. Hey. Let's start better than that now. Let's start better than that last one. Yeah. Oh! That way, throw a catch. There we go, there we go. Good job, good job. That way, Marv. Luigi, listen.
Okay, all right, man, we'll get going here this morning. So, great job getting here, getting in on time, getting ready to go, man. All right, we're all in here, finally, for the first time. It's like mid-August already, man. Great job yesterday with the testing for another day. I mean, we got a string going here, man. Everybody doing the right thing. So I appreciate that more than you guys know. Obviously, so good to see everybody. All right, it's great to finally get in here as a team and get going. Again, with the COVID thing, man, just keep doing everything right, okay? We got a lot of things in place in this building. It's the first time we've had all 80 in here at one time. Let's just be conscious, all right, of our, social distancing, trying to do everything the right way. All the chairs in here are 7 feet apart, okay, which obviously is within guidelines. Try to keep everybody safe, healthy, and protected. So through the course of the days in the meeting rooms, all that, locker room, let's be conscious, wear your mask, wash your hands, use the antibacterial, we'll be all right. All right, so look, man, we're going to dive right into this. I want to make sure we're on, the same page with everything here as we go forward. So number one thing that we got to do, it's so important, man. It's so important that we start with it every spring and every training camp. We start with the red area because there's nothing more important than points. Scoring them and keeping them out of the end zone. That's what we got to do. So, again, we'll start with it this morning. Most critical stat in football, obviously, is the score. 4-point plays. 4-point plays. Third down in the red area. We call them 4-point plays. It's a huge swing in the game. Critical point for us, if we can get a stop, or offensively, if we can convert, all right, continue the drive and go score. Third down in the red area is critical. Okay, nothing more important than points, man, like I talked about. So here you go right here. Biggest games of the year. Biggest games of the year. Where are we on the field? What's the awareness? Who's in the game? All right, what do they like to do here? All right, all things we got to understand. Offensively, okay, what is the defense going to give us? What kind of coverages do they play? Do we have an opportunity on the outside? Is it just locked up? How do the formationing affect the adjustments here of the defense? Let's do a great job on the field, working on our fundamentals. All right, let's hustle from drill to drill. I don't want to start anything over. Let's turn up the dial today, all right, on our intensity. The spring is over. The spring is over. We're starting to get to training camp mode.
It's obviously exciting to get back in the building. Not having an off season of OTAs and just being able to be around the guys, throw and catch, all that kind of stuff is stuff you miss. So I'm happy to be back. I feel good, body feels good, and it'll be a different training camp this year. No preseason games to prepare for, just battling it out against our own defense and against our own team, just trying to make sure we're as sharp as we can be heading into week 1.
A little bit of a unique situation here in training camp. We've had a couple different schedules through the acclimation period, but I think our guys have handled it really well, and I think that they're just trying to do everything they can to get ready for, that consistency of training camp, which, we're finally there and ready to go. But the guys have been amazing. They've worked really hard. Just super proud of them for just taking everything in stride and just trying to make the best of it. A lot of energy, a lot of excitement. We know that the training camp grind is upon us, and a couple weeks from now it's going to be in the middle of it, and some things will change from that aspect, I'm sure. But right now everybody's really excited and just happy to be here.
You look to the left, you look to the right, and we have ballers. So that's something that's very exciting. And obviously this is our second year in Bevel's offense, which we love. So the excitement is definitely up, and we're just glad that we're all in here together and finally getting some football done.
We have a bunch of great guys. We have guys that just want to come in, they want to work hard, they want to compete. They genuinely care about each other. They're going to push each other. I think they know that competition is at the highest level, and quite frankly, I think they just want to come in and work. And that urgency, that sense of trying to get back out there with your teammates and get in a huddle, break the huddle, get some communication, identify what's going on, make a call, and go execute that call. Everybody missed that for a little while, and I think it was a great reminder for all of us of how important and this game is, and how fragile the game is, and we want to make sure that we can go out and maximize that.
Come on, let's go! Hey, come on, Ty, that's it. All the way. Come on. Mark.
Oh, man. What a time. The day of the grind. I have it in the cold tub, buddy. No ice bath. You're not even in it. Hey, I'm in it. Hell, but I'm deep. Oh, you might as well go get up in there.
Hey, let me tell you, how good that feels?
Why I'm the only one in the cold tub?
It's the first day of pads, so interior linemen and linemen in general, we're tired of having to do like a walkthrough tempo to get the pads on. We can finally actually work a technique.
It's party time now, baby. Let's get it.
Without preseason games, we gotta attack every day like it's a real game, because that's all we got.
on, come on, hit it. Drive it, drive it, drive it, drive it. Break. That's how you drive it. Sit up, get down there. There you go, Big V, break. Big V, I want to see now. Get under his pads, but this base has got to stay there so you don't fall off, all right? Sit up. Come on, there it is. Break, nice. Come on, stay square. Come on, skip. Break, good. O'Day, I'm not always opposed to flipper, but if I flipper you guys, I want to spin it back underneath so I can push. That's all right, there you go, Big V. Keep going, Big V. Don't take this hand, I'll just ride them all the way there. There it is, nice, Deck. Nice, hey, Logan, nice shot.
First day of pads, there's a lot of fun going around. I think a lot of guys on the team are excited. Just happy to be out there with the new team, trying to build communication and create relationships out there. It just feels good to be out there.
We still got a lot to go as far as, just working technique and everything, but it was great to be out there with the pads again.
Hey Lions fans, thank you for watching Training Camp Live, presented by Rocket Mortgage. We'll be right back.
Without technology, we'd probably be closed right now.
Detroit has ranked as one of the least connected cities in America.
As easy as it is for you to pick up your phone and call a colleague and email them, many people don't have access to that.
We understand how important technology is to small businesses.
It's allowing us to provide a service.
That's why we're pledging millions to ensure Detroit businesses have access to the technology they deserve.
Having access can take our community to the next level.
Learn more at rocketmortgageclassic.com.
Luigi, big check.
Jade is about to buy her first home, and with a verified approval from Rocket Mortgage, she has the strength to compete with cash offers. When you need an edge in the bidding war, Rocket can. Rocket.
Welcome back into Lions Training Camp Live, presented by Rocket Mortgage. I'm your host, Tori Petrie. We are awaiting the arrival of players to the practice fields here for another day of Lions Camp. Practice was pushed back a few minutes today. It starts around 10:45, 11 o'clock. We will start to see players rolling in a little bit before then, but we still have a show for you, so that just means that you're just going to hear more about the wide receivers and tight ends, because that is the topic that we are talking about today. Tim Twentyman will join me in just a minute to talk about everything that has happened in camp up to this point. And then later on in the show, Lions legend Herman Moore will be on to break down all of the wide receivers and tight ends on this roster. Earlier this week, I got a chance to sit down with wide receiver Marvin Hall to talk about this group, and he is excited about it. Take a look.
Marvin, thank you so much for joining us, man. We're excited to talk about receivers today. That group seems like it is just such a deep group. What can you tell us about that wide receiver room this year?
Oh, man, so much talent in that room. Starting with the leaders, of course. You have Kenny, Marv, Dola. They bring you energy every day. And then, of course, you have, Cephas, Agnew. You have myself. You have Germ, TK. You just have so many people that you can really name. And it just bring different type of energy into the room. I'm just excited for this year.
Well, it is your second year under Darrell Bevell's offense. How much better do you guys feel like you know this offense at this point, having a little bit of experience under your belt?
Well, at this point, like I said, just, getting the wrinkles out now. And now we're able to really, play a lot faster. Of course, Bev has, tremendous play calls. Of course, you have a great leader in Matt. Matt gets the calls in. And, he just makes sure we lined up, to get everything going. So I feel really confident in this offense this year.
Where's the chemistry at with Matthew? I know you got to work with him last year, but, just where is that at with him returning from his injury?
It's still the same. Matt is a great quarterback, as I said last year. Just the way he approaches the game, with the knowledge that he has, like I said, last year, that cannon that he has for an arm. He came back like nothing ever happened. So, like I said, I'm really excited for this season, and the connection has been great.
I love it. Lots of people want to know about rookies as well, so I got to ask you about Quintez Cephas. What has the young guy shown you so far?
Oh, man. He came in like he's been here before. Of course, it's a little faster for him. So, learning the terminology, picking up on coverage is a lot faster. But as far as, his playing, oh, my God, the guy's second to none. So he's did a phenomenal job. He's doing great in the meeting room. He's transitioning pretty well. What
sets his game apart?
His game with him, his strong hands. No matter what, he, get off the ball, you can be right there next to him. He's coming down with it. And I love that about him for sure.
Well, it's not the first time that we've seen Jamal Agnew on offense, but he's been working with you guys at receiver pretty consistently. What's it like seeing a guy that maybe you used to face off against in practice be in your position group now?
Well, like I say, Agnew's a baller. It's a lot to say about the guy. He came in, you would have thought that he was a receiver from the jump, but he's came in, he works extremely hard. That's what separates him from a lot of people. He's a quick learner. A lot of times he comes up to him, he's like, man, I'm learning from you guys. Like, well, shit, you've never seen me do that one, so with the things he does is just like, wow, that he's able to just transition that easy, continue to make plays as he always has done.
And for you, we saw you work with the deep ball quite often last season. What part of your game are you working on during camp this year?
Really, like I said, I'm still trying to master the deep ball. It's always room for improvement, of course. But now I'm, trying to work the intermediate, the slants and, the end, cut routes, just focusing on the ball more and just try to, add more to my game. Just be, available as much as I can whenever they need me. And like I said, the deep ball, I'm always be available for that one.
I love it. You guys are a little over a week into camp now. Where do you feel like you guys are at? Obviously, this camp looks a whole lot different than it would in a normal year, but a week and a half into camp, how are you guys feeling?
Feel good. We're getting back into the groove of things, of course. We're doing amazing job on both sides of the ball. We're bringing intensity every single day. Like I said, the energy here is unbelievable. I feel like I said, we're making pushes forward in the right direction for sure. And I'm really excited for this season.
Marvin, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it so much, and we look forward to seeing you guys out on the field.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I love hearing how excited Marvin Hall is for this group of wide receivers. They will be on this field behind us in just a few minutes, but for now we welcome in Tim Twentyman from DetroitLions.com to discuss his observations this week, but also a little bit of what's been happening in camp, a little bit about wide receivers. We've got a lot to talk about.
Got a little
Tim.
bit of everything today.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
And a little extra time, too. So we have plenty to fill it with. But before we get to that, let's give the people their social poll of the day. We want you guys to weigh in on our topic of the day here today. And that question is, which Lions player will have the most touchdowns in 2020? If you have an answer for that, make sure you tweet it, post it in the comment section using hashtag LionsTC and then the last name of the player that you want to vote for. So whether you want to do hashtag LionsTC Hawkinson, hashtag LionsTC Amendola, Jones, Galladay, take your pick, submit your answers. Tim, I'm going to get your answer here. What do you think?
Well, I think the most popular answer will obviously be Galladay. He led the league with 11 touchdown catches last year, but I'm not going Galladay. I'm going with a sleeper pick. I'm going to go with right there in the middle, Hawkinson at 25%.
Tim, that is a sneaky pick.
It's a little bit of a surprise. It's a little bit of a sneaky pick. And I'm even going to say 9 touchdowns will
Wow.
lead it. So Hawkinson in his second year, and just what I've seen behind me, what he's done in the offseason, how he's developed, how they're using him, and just how good he's looked out here, I think it's a big second year for the young tight end. And I'm going with the sleeper. I'm going with Hawkinson.
All right.
9 touchdowns going to lead him.
I like it. Well, Kenny Golladay had 11 touchdowns last year, led the league. Marvin Jones Jr. had 9, so he was just behind him, tied for 4th in the league. And you think Hawkinson is going to have 9 touchdowns. Last year, that would have tied him for 4th in the league. That's a lot of touchdowns for a tight end.
It's a lot of touchdowns. It's a lot of touchdowns for a tight end, I know. I think they're going to use him outside a little bit. And we talked to Darrell Bevel, the offensive coordinator in the offseason. He said, look, I've got to find ways to get my tight ends more involved. Just with the mismatches that especially Hawkinson can have up the seam in the middle of the field. And I think it goes to Hawkinson's advantage when we talk about Golladay and Marvin Jones on the outside having 11 and 9 touchdowns, what they're going to do with their running backs in the pass game. I think those tight ends are going to see a lot of single coverage, and I just think Hawkinson in his second season, we've talked before about how hard that position is for rookies to learn. You're essentially learning 3 positions. You have to learn all the run fits and the pass protection and everything, and just guys' heads spin at the tight end position. Often that in that second year, guys tend to, it kind of all clicks together. They get it. They can play fast. I think that'll happen for Hawkinson. That's my surprise pick.
Okay, well, that begs the question then, since we're talking about who will have the most touchdowns for the Lions, that brings up fantasy football, because we still have fantasy football to play this year. Feels a little bit different because we don't have a preseason. Usually we're kind of watching guys in the preseason, starting that conversation. But let's start the fantasy conversation here. So are you saying that TJ Hawkinson's going to be the best fantasy pick of those guys?
Ooh, that's tough. Now, it depends on what league you're in, obviously.
Sure.
Because I think the yards and the catches, I think you were probably still going to see with Kenny. But I think Hawkinson's going to be a sleeper pick at the tight end position. I do. I just think he's everything is set up for him to have a really, really good second year. And I think somebody's going to pick him up in the late rounds of fantasy or the middle to late rounds of fantasy, and they're going to be really happy that they did.
Well, we are going to talk about that guy. We're also going to talk about the wide receivers. Today's show is all about wide receivers and tight ends. But before we hop into that, Tim, we are going to talk about your observations from camp this week. You set out here, you write a piece for DetroitLions.com where you write about your observations from the week. So let's jump into those. Tim, we're talking about wide receivers today, so tell us what you've seen from the wide receivers this week.
Well, it's fitting to lead off with them.
Exactly.
And they've been impressive really this whole camp, but I thought especially last week too. Marvin Jones Jr. is having a terrific camp. There was a play, and I think you saw it too the other day, and I feel for Jeff Okudah.
Oh, my goodness.
I really do. Because, look, those cornerbacks get such great one-on-one work with these veteran wide receivers. Marv made a play where he's down the right sideline, and he made like a turning there's an over-the-shoulder catch that he made. I mean, that's terrific coverage. But Jeff Okudah was covering down the right sideline, and he just made a back shoulder one-handed grab with Okudah all over him. And we've just seen that throughout camp, just big play after big play. And you're watching the highlights here. He's been terrific. I think Kenny Golladay has been good. We've seen him making a ton of plays in the back of the end zone, ending periods with a win for the offense. And look, the Lions were the only team last year to have 3 receivers catch at least 60 passes for 675 yards. And you throw Danny Amendola into the mix too. He's been really good in one-on-ones and able to find space in team drills in the slot. And just what a great thing for Matthew Stafford and Darrell Bevel to have all 3 of these receivers back. And then you've got a guy like Marvin Hall, who you talked to at the beginning. What a threat down the field. I think he averaged over 37 yards per reception last year. I mean, he was a deep guy. And then we'll get into Jamal Agnew a little bit too, but his switch from cornerback to receiver, he's been good out here as well. And so I like the rookie, Quintez Cephas. He's made a ton of plays, basketball background.
Impressed.
And we've talked about him before, just his ability to make tough catches in crowds, use his body to shield defenders, and he always catches the ball out in front with his hands. I think there's going to be some tough decisions at wide receiver on this roster, not just for roster spots, but who plays as well. Because
who gets the ball even?
Who gets the ball, yeah. I just think the Lions are in a terrific situation at the receiver position with those 3 guys coming back that are known, productive, producers. And then the guys that are kind of coming into their own, the Agnews, the Halls, the Cephases. I just think it's a really deep and talented group, and Matthew Stafford's pretty lucky to have it.
Yeah, and those guys have been so much fun to watch in camp up to this point. That play you talked about with Marvin Jones Jr., the adjustment that he had to make to catch that ball was absolutely insane. You said it. Jeff Okudah had no way
he kind
of
of put his
defending
hands
that.
up, too. Jeff did. He's like, well, what do I do? Welcome
Exactly.
to the NFL, Rook. You know, I mean, you can sometimes have great coverage, but these are such terrific athletes at the wide receiver position. And sometimes you can do everything right, and somebody just makes a play, and that happened to Jeff Okudah on that day. Now, Jeff's made some plays himself, too, but that was one that stood out to me. It was just, it's one of those things where Matthew kind of knew it was tight coverage, kind of back shouldered it. Marv was a little late turning on it, didn't quite, have the communication there, but he still was able to reach behind him, catch it with one hand, get 2 feet in bounds, and Jeff Okudah's sitting there like, what do I do?
Unfair.
This NFL might be kind of hard.
Yeah, Jeff Okudah will learn, but that pass, that catch was absolutely undefendable. The body control that Marvin Jones Jr. showed to catch that pass was absolutely incredible.
Well, I think that's 2 really good assets for Kenny and Marv, too. As you talk about the body control, just how many catches do they make high-pointing footballs down the sideline and then still managing to get both feet in bounds? It's a skill set. It's a trade. And I think Kenny, obviously, with his size, just being 6'4", can go up and do that. But Marv isn't a 6'2". He's not a huge guy, but his ability to just go up, high-point balls, and have that body control to be able to still – we see time after time. It's like week after week we see Marv make one of those big plays down the sideline, going up over a defender and maintaining his feet in bounds. He's a terrific athlete. Both those guys on the outside. It starts there for Matthew Stafford. And when you've got 1A and 1B on the outside and a veteran like Danny Amendola inside, now you can sprinkle in Cephas, who can play inside and outside. We're going to see, Jamal Agnew and what he's been able to do, this first week. He's been really, really good. He's made a seamless transition to receiver. So they've got some weapons at the receiver position for sure.
They absolutely do. And we should see a clip of that Marvin Jones Jr. play a little bit later on in the show. But we cannot miss talking about Kenny Golladay and the year that he had last year. Darrell Bevell talked with us a few weeks ago, and he said that he is working with Kenny Golladay to see if they can take his game to an even better level than it was at last year, leading the league with 11 touchdown receptions. They said they want him to be thought of in the elite group of wide receivers with guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, and that's what they're working towards with him. Obviously, you can't really compare all of these guys that are at the elite level and compare their game to one another, but they want Kenny to be thought of in that upper echelon of receivers. What are you expecting from Kenny in 2020?
Well, I'm expecting a big year again from Kenny. I mean, you look at that catch right there in that Kansas City game. There's all the tools right there. Contested catch, using his hands, body control to get his feet in bounds. And we just saw that week after week. And I think what Darrell Bevell means when he says that upper echelon guy, when I think of Mike Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, they're getting the ball.
Right.
You know it. On 3rd and 10, it's going to them. And there's no doubt about it, and they can still make that play. And I think that's where the next level with Kenny is.
Sure.
I think, Kenny can make tough catches and obviously can stretch the field. He's a big receiver. He's got all the tools. And now it's just, I think, understanding what defenses are doing in terms of covering him. When they double cover him or when he's got safety help over the top, what routes can he run that can still get him open and be that guy on 3rd down. So I think it's just understanding, what defenses are doing to him and what he can do to still be productive when a defense says, look, Kenny Golladay ain't going to beat us today. Look, Mike Thomas, they say that every game against Mike Thomas. They say that every game against DeAndre Hopkins, and still they beat him. And I think that's the next step for Kenny.
Absolutely.
Is just be that guy that it doesn't matter what you do, I'm good enough that I'm going to get mine, and good luck stopping it. I think that's the next step for Kenny.
I love it. I love that attitude.
Yeah.
And I know that Kenny is up for it. I know that is what he is working towards. And like you said, this wide receiver group is going to be exciting to watch this year if this offense is anything like we saw in those first 8 games with Matthew Stafford last year. It's great for Matthew Stafford to have his guys returning. That certainly helps things out. And talk about guys returning. I mean, you got TJ Hawkinson coming back for his 2nd year in this offense as well, 2nd year in the league. What do you think TJ Hawkinson can show us in year 2?
Well, like we talked about off the top, you see example after example with the Kelseys and the Kittles and all these guys. You look at their rookie stats, You look at their second-year stats, now you see the huge jump in production. And I think, Hawk is going to be along them same lines. And you're seeing a play right here, and he's having fun. And
I love it. I have loved watching him in camp.
He's having fun, and they're using him in a lot of different ways. They're using him in the slot. They're using him in line. You saw the catch there on Oruwariye where he was lined up out wide left. And look, he used his body really good. He made that catch, and then, he came up and had a big old Hawk spike. We talk about the Gronk spike. There was a Hawk spike the other day, and it was.
I like it.
It was from Hawkinson.
He was fired up.
He was fired up, and you see, the biggest difference I see with him from last year is, look, he was the number 8 pick last year. And all the pressure that comes with that, and tight ends don't get selected that high, and there's just a ton of pressure on a guy like that. And we talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he worked with Kittle, who's a good friend of his, was a teammate at Iowa.
Yeah. And
they worked out in this offseason. He said, look, the one thing I took away from those workouts with George Kittle is he has fun with everything he does. And if you've ever heard the mic'd up with George Kittle, I mean, they're hilarious. He's great. He's just got a terrific love for the game, love for life. And that was the biggest thing that Hawkinson took away from working out with him. He said, look, I just have to have more fun playing football again. And I think we've seen that out here with the Hawk spike and just some of the other things. He's been more animated. You hear him yell after a big play. I didn't remember hearing any of that. Rookies come in, they keep their head down, make plays. But, I think he's just having a ton more fun. And I think it's translating to him being a lot more productive out on the field behind us, too. And he's been really, really good. And that's why I just think he's poised for a really big year, a sneaky big year from Hawkinson.
I think that is a great point that you make about coming in your rookie year and putting your head down. And then your second year, you've established yourself a little bit.
You're a leader
so
now.
You're able to have a little bit more fun. And that's what we have been seeing from Hawkinson. We also saw him come in with a bigger frame this year. I mean, that guy really did the home workouts well this offseason. And so he has been just having a good time out there. We're going to see that little Hawk spike
there it is. There's the Hawk spike. See?
Yeah, exactly.
I never saw that last year.
Exactly.
That was one of those, throw it down, and the rookie made a play. Yeah, good. But no, now he's, all right, me and you, Oruwariye, let's go here. I just ended a period. You guys are doing push-ups. He's having fun. I mean, I just see a whole different attitude surrounding Hawk. There it is again. Boom. Hands up, Hawk spike. I like it. I think I've coined something here. We got the Gronk spike. I like the Hawk spike.
All right, let's hope we see some more of that in the regular season. I know that is what TJ is working for as well. We talked a lot about the offense for good reason. That's still what we were focusing on with today's show. But while we're going through your observations, tell us what you've seen from the D-line this season.
Strong play, especially this last week. And I think there's 3 big differences there. Obviously, Trey Flowers is healthy. He wasn't healthy, had the off-season shoulder surgery last year.
Well, and he didn't even play in camp last season.
Didn't even participate in camp. Didn't play any preseason. And I think that led to a slow start for him when the regular season came around, because you just have to get your legs under you, technique and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's been a big difference in him, his ability to train in the off-season, which he didn't last year, and then come in here and get that technique working. He called it the grind, and how he loves the grind, and how, look, defensive lineman, it's all about footwork and technique and hand placement, and he's been able to work on all that stuff and kind of fine-tune it. And I expect him to hit the ground running when the regular season starts. You look at where he was from weeks 8 to 17 last year. He was one of the best defensive ends in football. I think his 18 quarterback pressures were the third most among all defensive ends that second half of the year. So he really came on once he got his legs under him, and now, boom, I think he's just going to take off right where he was. He's been good out here. He's a handful for guys in individual drills. Him and Taylor Decker going at it, I think, is great competition in those one-on-one drills. And one thing with Trey, too, is they've moved him inside quite a bit. They've done some certain packages where he moves inside. They run 4 defensive linemen, and he's been a handful for those guys inside, too. The rookie Jonah Jackson got a glimpse of that in a team period that I watched on Saturday. And so, it's such a good thing for the Detroit Lions defense that Trey Flowers is healthy. He's one of their best defensive linemen. And then another guy who's impressed me up front is Nick Williams. He really came into his own last year in Chicago with those 6 sacks from the interior, and it was the first time he really got substantial reps. For the Bears, and he made the most of it. And he's been really, really good in one-on-one reps. He's really quick off the ball, super quick off the ball. And so if you've got Trey on the outside, and now you can add a guy like Nick, and he can have that similar production. I mean, you get 6 sacks from the interior. That's good production. If the Lions can't get anything close to that with what they got on the outside with Trey, is so good for that defensive line. We know that was an area they struggled. They have to affect the quarterback more. Having those two guys, they think they can do that. And really, I think the wild card for me is Deshaun Hand. And he's been healthy.
Yeah.
And that's been his issue, you know. His rookie year, he was terrific. He was Pro Football Focus's best rookie interior lineman.
There was a lot of hype over him after
his
rookie year.
Yeah, he was really, really good. And then we just didn't see it last year. He was hurt for really all year. I think he only played 3 games or something like that. But he's been really good out here. And like we talked about with Trey, the ability to play outside and then the ability to move inside. We've seen it both through training camp here with Deshaun Hand. Now you've got a guy like Flowers who can do that. You've got Hand that can do that. You've got Nick Williams, who's a different kind of skill set. I think more of a pass rusher inside. And he's next to Danny Shelton, who's your run stuffer. 61 tackles for him last year. That's good production from the interior. Now you've got a nice mix of guys that can do a lot of different things. And look, this Lions defense wants to be multiple, especially up front. We've seen them have 4 defensive line sets. We've seen them run the 3 defensive linemen, with that jack linebacker. So they're really mixing it up, which is what Matt Patricia has preached and what they want to do on defense. And if these guys can all stay healthy with what they have in the ability to be multiple and guys play different spots, I've been impressed the last week with that defensive line group. I think they've held their own. They've certainly been a handful in one-on-one drills, and hopefully that translates to the regular season when they start strapping up and hitting it for real.
Well, if you guys want to hear more about the defensive line, you should absolutely tune into our show on Friday morning. That show is going to be all defensive line, all show long. So, Tim, we'll have you talking more about the D-line. We will also have TJ Lang on that show to talk about the defensive line with us. That should be a good one. We are looking forward to Friday's show where we break all of that down. Now, Tim, there are a few plays in camp that always stand out, a few that are more fun to watch than the others. What is your number one play that has stuck out so far?
All right, so I'm going to go over the last week here. And there was a play it was a red zone period, team period. Matthew Stafford's trying to kind of fit a pass into a tight window. Reggie Ragland, the veteran linebacker, goes up with one hand, snags the ball with one hand, and boom, he's off down the side.
Catch.
You see the catch? Look at this. Oh, and now he's gone. He's gone. And there's 2 things I loved about this play. Look at all the defenders trailing Reggie Ragland. Now, this is practice. This is camp. We're August. It's dog days, right? You see your guy go.
And
you might not want
hot this weekend.
It was very hot. It was 90-plus degrees in that practice. Half those guys sprinted 100 yards with Reggie Ragland, tackled him in the end zone, smacking him on the helmet. The guys on the sideline are having a ton of fun, and it was just a good play. And I think it shows kind of some of that camaraderie these guys on defense are having, and just how badly they want to make plays for their team. And that was one that got those whole guys excited. But the other part of that play that I liked, give Matthew Stafford credit. Now, he threw that pick, right? But he hustled his butt all the way down the sideline and ran right with Reggie. And it was close. We were debating in the stands if Matthew would have got him. If he wasn't wearing that red jersey and he was allowed to tackle him, would he have got him? And it was funny. We talked to Reggie Ragland after that play in a Zoom call, and we asked him about that. Hey, would Matthew have caught you? He said, Matt came to me in the locker room and said he would have caught me. Get out of here, number 9. He said, look, if I have fresh legs, I'm gone on game day. So it was a little fun banter between those guys, too. But, what a terrific play all around. It's just kind of one of those things that late in the practice, it kind of pumped everybody up, and it was fun to watch.
I loved it. There was a literal dog pile in the end zone on top of Reggie Ragland
it was
after
great.
He caught that. And I love Matthew hassling him for it as well, saying, I would have caught you. I'm not so sure. I don't know if he could have taken down a huge guy like Reggie Ragland, but fun to watch. Nonetheless, good to see Matthew hustling out there. All right, we've also seen Jamal Agnew switch over to the wide receiver spot. What play stuck out from him in practice this week?
Well, they've tried to create some competitive periods of practice. They've done some 2-minute stuff. Offense, you're on your 37-yard line. You've got a minute 33 on the clock. You've got no timeouts. You're down by 5. You got to score. And the first team offense will do that, and the second team offense will then go. And Jamal Agnew was playing with the second team offense, Chase Daniel. And Jamal Agnew made a catch along the right-hand side, first play. Then they made, they had a big chunk play to Cephas on the left sideline. And then that's the play you saw right there, was that kind of post route over the middle, diving catch by Agnew, able to separate a little bit at the top of his route. 3 plays that second offense needed to get 67 yards down the field.
It took the first team offense a couple more than that.
I think that the first team offense had to go 4th and 1 to get the touchdown with 2 seconds left. The second offense left 33 seconds on the clock, which might be too much, but it goes to what we talked about earlier with Agnew, making that transition to the offensive side of the ball. Playing cornerback, I think he understands coverages a little bit. He understands leverage, and so I think that helps him a little bit at the receiver position. But then there's speed, and that can't be taught. And he might be the fastest guy on this team, and I think we've seen that out here over the first couple weeks. His ability to separate from defenders, he's got better hands than I thought he would. They always joke all the time, you play defensive back because you can't catch the football. But that's not the case with Agnew. He's been really, really good. I haven't seen him drop many balls at all. They were doing a individual period, well, not so much individual, but they were doing a wide receivers versus DBs kind of
like one-on-ones.
Yeah, it was not really one-on-ones. It was more like 2-on-2s or whatever, just working some stuff in the back of the end zone. And Agnew made a terrific adjustment to a ball and kind of caught it back shoulder. And Matthew Stafford just gave a clap, and it got him excited a little bit too. And it's kind of those little things, those little adjustments that you have to make at a receiver, that little subtle communication you get with the quarterback, knowing that he's not going to be able to put it in front of you. Back shoulder is probably the best way to go. That takes time to build that kind of trust, communication with the quarterback. We're already seeing it with Agnew. Matthew Stafford was fired up about that play, and he continues to make plays and plays and plays, and he's getting a lot more comfortable at that receiver position. So he's one to watch the next couple weeks and see how that continues to grow and develop and how much he can be a big part of this offense. We've seen, him move over to that ball and be a decoy and run reverses and stuff like that, but he's a wide receiver full-time now. He doesn't sit in any of those defensive back meetings anymore. And look, he's so great with the ball in his hands in space. We've seen that with the 4 return touchdowns. He was an all-pro as a rookie as a return man, and it's because he's so dynamic and so fast and so good in space. And so, the Lions have just decided, look, let's find ways to get this guy the ball in space, and we're seeing that there's been some pretty good results behind us over the first 2 weeks of camp.
You know what I love watching Agnew in one-on-ones with the DBs, because that is his former position group. Those are the guys that he used to be in a meeting room with, and the chirping that goes on between Agnew and the DBs, particularly Justin Coleman. Those two will go after it. I love that Agnew told us in his media session this week that back when he was a DB, he would tell JC all the time, he'd say, if I was a receiver, I'd route you every time. And now he is a receiver.
Now he gets a chance to do it.
So we get to see whether he, is true to his word or not. So I love when guys have a little bit of competition between them like that, and that has been really fun to watch.
It's funny too, Tori. They had a rep like that I was watching. I think it was Sunday, right before they had the player day off on Monday. Those two went at it on a one-on-one. And look, Coleman was grabbing the jersey a little bit, and Agnew was pushing off a little bit, and it was an incomplete pass, and immediately Agnew was wanting the flag, throwing it up, and Coleman's like, no flag, and they're chirping all the way back. So it goes to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Those two guys worked hand in hand last year. They were number 1 and 2 slot corners,
right.
And so to go against each other, it's been fun to watch. They have a good relationship, a good friendship, and it's been fun watching those guys just go back and forth a little bit in those individuals. Good point by you. It's been fun.
Speaking of competition, how about the punters this week? That was my personal favorite highlight of camp so far. Not because it was a big play or anything, but just because it was absolutely fun to watch. A little bit of competition drilled up between those punters who we aren't going to see in a preseason game. And the Lions, made a competition happen at the end of Sunday's practice.
Well, that's a big thing. We talked about that in the preview show too, is, especially with on special teams, how are you going to simulate that live environment? How are you going to simulate that competition? And so I thought Matt Patricia and the coaching staff did a great job to end Sunday's practice. What you're seeing right here is basically they did a Jack Fox versus Aaron Sapos punter battle. It was based on hang time, distance, and then they had to kind of coffin corner one, and they put all those elements together. And basically all the other guys on the team had to choose which side they were on. It was either Fox or Sapos. And I think it was 50-50 split. It was pretty good.
Well, I think it turned out that it was mostly the offense ended up on Fox's side, and mostly the defense was on Sipos' side.
Those guys can never just agree on anything, can they?
No, they can't.
They're always separated.
There were a few that picked sides. Like Tyrell Crosby tweeted afterwards that he picked the Aussies side because he has a few Twitter follows that he likes that are Australians.
I think Carry-On was over there,
too.
And
of course Carry-On had to support his fellow Auburn Tiger. He came over to Sipos' side. Of course, Aaron Sipos played for the Auburn Tigers, Carry-On Johnson's alma mater as well. So he was supporting his fellow War Eagle there.
And who won?
Sipos won.
Sipos won. And so it goes to the competitive part about it, too. All the guys that chose Fox had to, run around both fields. So there's a little element to it. There's some competition. And I think that's great.
But it was friendly.
It was really
fun.
friendly, but it was simulating that competition.
Pressure.
That you're not going to get the pressure of preseason football. And so what a terrific job by Matt Patricia and the coaching staff to, come up with ways that you can simulate that competitive spirit, that, live competition, get the blood flowing a little bit. Nerves, when you control the conditioning of half your team, there's a little bit of nerves there. And so it was a fun period to end practice, and I put it in my observations Sunday, and I just thought it was kind of a fun sequence here to end practice. So it got in the observations column.
A lot of hassling on both sides for both players as well. A little bit of USA chance for Fox since he was facing off against the Aussie in Aaron Sipos, but it was all in good fun. These guys had a good time out there, and it really is good to see them bonding as a team like that, but also finding a way to create competition in a preseason that has no preseason games. All right, Tim, I was able to catch up earlier this week with wide receivers coach Robert Prince. We talked to him about his wide receiver group. We're going to talk more about wide receivers on the show today. And he was really good talking about his wide receivers, and we also had him mic'd up during practice this week. So take a look at what Robert Prince had to say.
RP, thank you so much for joining us here today. It has been exciting watching your group of receivers in camp. That is a deep group. How much do you love working with those guys every day?
Oh, I loved all those guys. All of them are working hard. Great guys. They all check their ego at the door, and they're all ready to work right from the jump. So it's been great.
All right, you are returning your 3 starters at the wide receiver position. You've got Kenny Golladay coming back. You've got Marvin Jones Jr. You've got Danny Amendola. What have those 3 guys meant to your group, and what do you feel like they can bring this year?
Well, the first thing they bring is all of them are bringing a leadership quality to the room, showing the guys how to work, and that's been great, showing the younger guys. And all of them bring something to the table differently. Obviously, Kenny, he's got a large catching radius. Marvin Jones, he's been making spectacular catches every day in practice. And Danny, he's been our great third down guy. And like I said, he brings a lot of energy to the group, and it's been great having those guys.
Joe Bevel talked with us over the offseason. He said you guys are working with Kenny on taking his game to the next level. You want him to be able to get to that point where he's thought of amidst the elite receivers in the NFL. How close do you feel like Kenny is to that point?
Well, I'm not going to compare Kenny to anybody. Kenny's trying to be the best Kenny Golladay that he can be, and he is. He's getting better every day. There's some techniques that he's been working on, and he's been willing to work on it, so it's been great.
Well, we're interested in some of the new additions to that group as well. Quintez Cephas is a name that everybody's got their eye on. What do you like about the rookie?
Quintez, he came in here, and Q just decided, hey, you know what, I'm on to try to be try to contribute this year. So he's put his head down, and he's taken coaching, and he's gotten better from day one. Every day you see a little bit more improvement, and he's been out there making plays, and we're happy to have him.
We chatted with Marvin Hall earlier on in the show. He talked about that group and how much he loves it, but also how he's been working on a little bit of different aspects of his game besides the deep ball. We saw quite a bit of that last season. What does he bring to the group?
Yeah, Marvin Hall, he is more than just a deep guy. He's really good getting in and out of his breaks, working on his releases. And yeah, we're trying to get him to the next level where, he could just be an every down type of player and bring more to the table for the group.
Well, you've got Jamal Agnew joining the group this year. Of course, he's worked with you guys before, but his first full year as an offensive player. How different is that, taking a guy from the defensive side of the ball and trying to transition fully into an offensive player?
Yeah, Agnew's been great. Obviously, he's a guy that we want to get the ball in his hands because he's a special runner. But just learning all the different techniques and fundamentals of playing receiver, it's been great because he's been very open and he's been working hard. So he's been an awesome addition to the group.
Now, do things get a little bit more chirpy with him going up against the DB since that's his former position group?
Yeah, I said, he got a chance to leave the dark side and he's full on welcomed it. And yeah, he wears our colors very well and very proud of it.
I love it. I love it. Something else that I love watching in practice is you are always one of the coaches that gets right in there with the guys. This week I saw you call out, this rep is for push-ups, and whoever wins that rep has to do push-ups, and you're jumping right in there with those guys doing push-ups if they lose. What do you like about being so involved in just kind of a hands-on coach and getting in there with those guys in competition?
Yeah, we just try to make it a competitive atmosphere, just put something on the line. And so, trying to make a competitive atmosphere, not combative. And it's been great. The DBs, they'll take it or they'll give it as well as we will. And it's been fun.
Well, we got to see you mic'd up in practice this week and got to see a little bit of you in action. Let's take a look at that.
Every day. You're making a play every day. Huh? I said, he's been making plays every day. Marv? Hey, Kenny, you've been doing a hell of a job. Keep it up, all right? Keep it up. You've been working hard, all right? You can tell you did some things in the off season. Make sure it pays off, Kenny. What up? Get your hands off us today. You, hands off. Egg. You feel good?
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right, you good with all the plays?
Yeah.
All right, hey, doing a great job, brother. All right, let's go. Let's go. All right. Marv, the word today, patience. They can't touch you. They can't even touch you. Dylan, hey, I think you're one of the best, brother. All right, one of the best in the game. All right, I appreciate you.
RP said he's the CEO, the Chief Energy Officer.
He's the best. Dylan is the best.
Hey, I like that.
Oh, let's go! Let's knock it down. Knock my arm down. Let's go. Knock it down, knock it down. Violent, be violent with it. All right, get that arm down. If you take a swing laterally, you might miss. Let's go. There we go, I like it. I like it. Violent, 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 let's go. MH, again, don't push it off, hit it, all right? Don't push it off, hit it. There we go. Get your inside release. Make sure we straighten back up. Stick me in before you go. Give me a hard stick. Yeah, go. Lee. There we go. Go. There we go. Have some juice, have some speed now. Catch up, lean. Guys, we gotta go faster. Wide out, let's go faster. Guys, we're running. Want me to get him? You got him. I got you. Guys, our tempo was crap. We gotta go faster.
Go.
Stay.
Yeah, more.
There we go.
Money.
There we go, Marv! Let's go, Marv! Ah! Squeeze. Nice, there we go! Way to hold the red line! Knock his hands up. Nice, way to knock it down! Oh, go finish! Go score! Hey, hold up. Hey, guys, just make sure he's trailing. Give a good ta-ta, all right? MH, right idea, just stick it a little bit harder, and he would have bit. Battle. Make it strong hands! Make it! Oh, good route! Oh! Attack him. Oh, you should score. You should score. You should score. He might break his ankle. Uh-oh. Longer. A little longer. KD! First one-on-one rep.
Oh, yeah. I didn't try to spend too much time with him. I tried to just free release him and then just hold the line from the jump. Nice. So
it was
good.
perfect.
Can't wait to see it.
Yes, perfect.
RP, if you need another receiver.
Oh, I guess. I mean, I might have been recruiting him after he caught that sluggo last year in the spring. Only thing is, his route was a little bit janky, but I like the end result.
Yeah, you don't matter. Y'all about to say I catch it, though. You know what I'm saying?
The route was a little janky, but the end result.
It matter, right?
Yeah.
Like 195.
How? Red area. Here we go. Red area. They got 4 in a row. Let's go. What do we got? We got touchdown right here. We got touchdown. Get it up. Oh! Oh! Next! What do we got next? Next drill! Way to go get it! I thought we did some good things out there. Wasn't perfect. We had some MEs, made some plays, but you know what we said? Hey, whatever it was gonna be on to the next one, right? We make a good play, on to the next one. We jack up, on to the next one. Ag, you jacked up, bounce back, scored in 2 minutes, right? That's how it is. Nothing's gonna be perfect, right? We're trying to get perfect, but it ain't always gonna be perfect. But that's what we gotta do, just on to the next play, and we gotta get after it, all right? Take care of your bodies, fellas, all right? This is how you guys make your money, right? You gotta take care of your bodies, and then make sure, after you guys shower, just make sure, have your contact tracers. Good work today.
Hey, we got to keep setting the tone. Receivers on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Receivers. All right.
Hey, Lions fans. Thank you for watching Training Camp Live, presented by Rocket Mortgage. We'll be right back.
Your house brought you together. Like, really together. And although together is great, together with more space is better. With Rocket Mortgage, you get personalized loan options, closing costs, and tax estimates, all in real time. So when you need to know what it takes for a home to fit your budget and your family, Rocket can.
Luigi! Listen!
30% of Detroit families don't have internet access at home. Rocket Mortgage is committing millions to ensure all Detroit students have the technology they deserve. Together, we are changing the course. Learn more at rocketmortgageclassic.com.
Welcome back into Lions Training Camp Live, presented by Rocket Mortgage. I'm Tori Petrie, and joining me on set now is Lions legend Herman Moore. Herman, it is so good to see you, and I am excited to talk some wide receivers with you today.
I think I know a little bit about that. It's good to see you as well, Tori.
I think you do. Speaking of which, we are going to have a little bit of a trivia question for you guys. It's something we've been doing in every show so far. So we're going to ask the fans to chime in for our trivia question. Herman, you might know at least part of the answer to this one, but here's your trivia question for today, guys. The question is, which Lions receivers have had 100 catch seasons? That's all time. That's not just current Lions. That's which Lions receivers, how many pass catchers have recorded 100 plus receptions in a season? Don't give the answer away, Herman, because we want the people to be able to chime in, but do you think you might have a little bit of an idea?
I think I do. I think I may know all of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, we will quiz you later on. We will come back to that trivia question and make sure you guys are also chiming in on our social poll of the day. We talked about it with Tim earlier in the show, Herman, but the question that fans are answering today is which Lions pass catcher they think will have the most touchdown receptions this season. So if you have an answer to that, chime in with hashtag LionsTC and then the last name of the player you think that is going to be. Before we hop into our discussion, I'll have you weigh in in on that. Who do you think will have the most touchdown receptions this season?
For some reason, I want to go tight end, but I'm going to stick with Galladay.
Really?
Yeah, I think Kenny's just been a monster when it comes to the red zone, so I think I'm going to stick with it. I think that's a safe one.
Tim Twentyman went with T.J. Hawkinson. Yeah. So, you know,
I could see that.
Both of you are feeling something on the tight ends, though.
There's something there because of just the attention that's been paid to all the receivers, I think.
Well, here's how you guys are chiming in so far. So far, you guys are all in on Kenny Galladay. That's who you guys think is going to be the one with the most touchdowns this season. We'll see if you guys are right. There's still plenty to see so far in the season coming up. We've got a lot to talk about in today's show. We are covering the wide receivers and tight ends. But before we get to that, I do want to let you guys know that there has been an adjustment to today's practice schedule, and we are waiting to hear when practice will start. So that's why you don't see any players out on the field behind us. We thought that was going to be a little bit earlier, but so far players have not come out to the field yet. We are waiting to see when it will begin. But no matter what happens, when the players do hit the field, we will have coverage for you, whether it is with Herman or whether it is with Tim Twentyman. We will find out a little bit later on. Herman is a busy guy, has places to go, but we're going to have him talk about wide receivers and tight ends while we have him here, whether there are players on the field behind us or not. So Herman, let's jump into this conversation. We'll start with the wide receivers. The most exciting thing about that group, I think, is that the Lions are returning their 3 starters from last season. That's got to be a good thing for them.
It is a good thing. It's always when you can come back in with the top tier guys, that's going to be important, and they're all healthy. That's one of the things that you look for as a organization, as a coaching staff, especially if you're the offensive coordinator and you're the receivers coach, because it takes a little anxiety off of it. You can put the entire playbook out and not have to hold back.
Absolutely, and it is really exciting to see what Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones Jr., Danny Amendola have been doing in camp so far, and this is their second year under Darrell Bevell as well. What are you expecting from those 3 guys in this offense this year?
Well, I'm expecting a lot because of the fact that they all bring different elements to their game. If you look at Galladay, he's expanded his range. He was a guy that you looked at just the deep passes. Marvin Jones, he was just a deep pass receiver. And then you got Amendola, who was working the seams. But I don't think you can be that predictable with this unit anymore because Coach Bevell and Coach Prince, these guys, they're going to have them in all kind of formations, all different types of setups. And the flexibility of those as players will give them a lot more firepower.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to watch wide receiver drills a little bit later on. Of course, they're not happening yet because of the delay to the start of practice today. But when they looking for when we're watching wide receiver drills, obviously you want to see the guy catch the ball, but tell us more beyond that what we're looking for.
Well, there's things you have to look out for when you're trying to judge where a receiver is. One, you're going to look at stamina. You want to make sure they come in, they're physically fit. But it's their eyes. You got to see how they're playing the field. Are they able to go out and survey the field? The other one you're going to look at is hands. Are they body catching? To me, typically doesn't mean that you have a lot of confidence versus using your hands. And then you got to have footwork. You got to see them at the line of scrimmage. You want to see how they're going to react to real-time situations. So all those drills are geared towards mimicking what happens in real gameplay. So you'll see some guys jogging down the field. Guys are pushing on them because you're always being challenged for a football. You'll see some that are catching and getting hit because you're always getting hit when you're trying to use your hands or catch the football. So there's a reason for everything that they do. Even when they do cone drills, they're getting footwork in. And it's important to get these little drills. It looks kind of simple, but it's not. It's actually the basic part of the game that I think a lot of young players will forget even when they get to the professional level.
All right, tell us, what was your favorite drill to do out at practice during your playing days?
I used to like the high ball in the end zone.
Okay.
We used to have a drill where we would run across the back end zone line, and the quarterbacks would aim towards the low bar of the goalpost, and you just go up and you try and make that high catch. Typically, a quarterback is going to throw it out of the end zone, but I knew that if I mastered that one, anytime I run in the back end of the end zone, Scott Mitchell or any of the quarterbacks would look for me in the end zone, and that's why I was having a few more touchdowns.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got to do those things and just really spark.
It comes from practice.
Spark. Yeah, that's it. But it's that, and I enjoyed the cone drills where we had to make really definitive, sharp turns. We had to do it with acceleration. We had to decelerate on some turns. The other one I loved is the fact that when you're catching, you have to catch and tuck. That's what they think you forget this at this level, but you don't. How many times do you lose a football? I think I had either 4 or 6 fumbles my entire career.
Wow.
And that's after having thousands of passes.
Right.
And, you got to have ball security and protection. So those are some of the small things, again, that get missed. So I'm happy to see that they still do that at this top level.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing when they're jabbing the guys with the pads and trying to knock the ball loose. They're trying to make sure that you're holding on to that ball security. And another thing that I've had a lot of fun watching during camp practice, and I talked to Robert Prince about it, is in those one-on-one drills, occasionally he will call, this one's for push-ups. And he'll say, whoever wins this rep between the wide receivers or the DBs, this one's for push-ups, and the losing group has to do push-ups. And even Robert Prince, as the coach, will hop in there and do push-ups if his group loses.
The receiver unit is a very competitive unit. I mean, a lot of people think we're vain. They think there's a lot of vanity there.
I will say, Lomas Brown was on the show earlier in the week, and when I said we were going to talk about wide receivers and tight ends next, his comment was, oh, the divas.
But he always wants to say that. But they get very excited when we have long touchdown passes or we get them off the field a lot sooner than they want.
That's true.
So we make the field shorter. But yeah, these drills are awesome, and I like to see the fact that Coach Prince is very energized. He gets in there, and he has a really good connection with his players, and that goes a long way too.
All right, well, we're going to jump into talking about these wide receivers. Let's talk about Kenny Golladay. I think it all starts with him after he had 11 touchdowns last season. That was the top in the league. Herman, what do you expect from Kenny this year? Do you expect him to have an even better season this year?
I actually do. I think this team has a lot of confidence. The quarterback has a lot of confidence in him as a receiver. His average yards per catch at 18 yards a catch. I mean, that's big play capability. He showed me some things that I didn't think he would do, and that would be the underneath routes. We saw him make plays after getting the ball in his hand and running with it. And that's typically tough for a bigger receiver. So with Kenny Golladay, I see him just continue to expand, to mature, to continue to get better as a player. And as his confidence rises, I think this system will rise around him and give him even more things to do.
I like that. And Darrell Bevel commented, Tim and I talked about this earlier, Darrell Bevel commented that he wants him to be thought of in that upper echelon of wide receivers in the league. They want to get him to a point where even when you know the ball's going to him, that he's still going to catch that ball. Do you think Kenny has that in him?
I think he has it in him. He's still going to have to work on that because that means you have to run the entire tree. That means that you can't be put in a position where a team can find a weakness in you and then they take you out of it because they force you into that situation. And for Kenny Golladay, the more he continues to be utilized in different scenarios and different situations, downs and distances and packages, it makes it a little bit harder to predict what kind of a player he is and where he is at all times.
Well, it certainly helps when you've got a player like him on one side and you've got Marvin Jones Jr. on the other. I am sure Matthew Stafford loves having that situation. As a quarterback, I would imagine that that's pretty good for him.
It's nothing wrong with a 1 and a 1A.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to have a bad option. Very reliable. You know what I was impressed with Marvin Jones over the last couple of years is really his ability. He was a really a body catcher, and I would see him catch a lot, but he's been using his hands quite a bit. I see him being more competitive when he's going after footballs, and it wasn't about just a long play. It was about he's contending, and he's going out and he's making the tough catches look easy. So I see him also as being someone that balances out that offensive unit, especially the receiver side of it. And he's a big guy. He's got the speed. He plays with a lot of intensity and came up big last year.
He did 9 touchdowns for the Lions last year, and that was just a couple less than Kenny Golladay. He was tied for 4th in the league, while Kenny Golladay led the league in touchdowns. Marvin Jones Jr. was tied for 4th in the league. However, he played 3 less games than Kenny Golladay did. He played in 13 games because of that injury, so having him healthy this season is going to be big.
It's going to be big. Whenever you have 2 guys, the quarterback, I won't say becomes unbalanced and he's going to look one way versus another because you always you're missing a big part. You talk about 9 touchdowns. 9 touchdowns is a huge contribution as a number 1 receiver in the NFL. So to have 2 guys that are putting up those type of numbers goes a long way in terms of the production. It gives the defense something they have to really get after and be fearful of. But it also allows you to emerge other people and other players within your system to expose them to some opportunities.
And, man, there are a lot of players that could emerge this year between Jamal Agnew joining that group, Quintez Cephas. There's plenty to talk about. But one more starter returns, and that is Danny Amendola. He wasn't quite up there in terms of Marvin Jones Jr. or Kenny Golladay in catches, but he sure was a good third down option for Matthew Stafford.
He was. You need that reliability. You need that, what we call that utility, all-purpose type player. Danny was great at that. I thought he came through. There were some times where I'm sure he wanted to be a little bit bigger part of the offense, but he came in at some critical times. And when you have that dependability, that's all you look for. And I don't think he tries to overstep or overreach in terms of what he brings to the table as much as own the position that he plays. And being that third receiver, he goes out and I think he tries to really optimize the opportunities that are given to him. Very dependable player. So I like to see more of him this year. I think the more they can get him inside of the underneath routes and just really making those down and distances a little bit more manageable, he's a tough player to contend with.
And the energy that he brings to that room as well. I know all of those wide receivers would comment on the energy that Danny Amendola brings. I mean, he is an energetic guy. When he misses a catch, he is upset about it, and he really fires up those other guys with the leadership. I mean, that guy's been in the league a long time. You
have to set standards, and anytime the ball's on the ground and there's been a pass that's thrown and it becomes an incompletion, that's one less opportunity that you fulfilled. And I think they have the right mindset. They have the right chemistry. There's a very good mixture in terms of the different age groups of this receiver unit that gives you a good mixture. No one's safe. No one can sit back and just say, okay, we've been here, done that, versus they're trying to get better each and every time. And that's what you see with this group. I love watching these guys go out and play. I love watching the fact that they transition from the practice field and they take those things into – and you see those drills we talked about earlier, Tori, that they're out there actually implementing those inside of a big game and a big platform like the NFL.
Well, you talk about the age spectrum in that wide receiver room. You go from one end in Danny Amendola and all the experience he has, and then you go to Quintez Cephus, the rookie, who has absolutely showed out in camp so far. He comes out of Wisconsin and joins this deep, deep wide receiver group. But what does Quintez Cephus bring that's different?
With Quintez, he's solid. He's, you got a 6'1", 208-pound guy that is strong, has hands, and to be young and to come out and you're already not being intimidated by the speed and the platform of the NFL, and this, you're already a step ahead of the game. What you want to see now is, can you stay focused? Can you deal with the reps that you're being given? You may not get all the reps you want. You may not get the plays that you typically want. You may not be the primary on some of those plays. But when you can make the most of the ability that you're given and of the opportunity that you're given, that shows the coaches that when I put you in, they expect some results.
Well, it's been exciting watching him in camp so far. I mean, it is not easy for a rookie to come in and show out in camp. I'm sure you could tell us a little bit more about that and how tough it is to jump in, especially in this camp where it's shortened. You don't have a preseason. It just looks a whole lot different than it usually would. I think that says a lot about a rookie coming in and making plays like that. What is it like joining camp as a rookie?
That's what I would love to ask some of these guys, how do they feel? Because I always expected, okay, I got geared up for that preseason game. You're working towards this opportunity to go in and kind of get some practice in real-time situation. But as a rookie now, you're coming in, you're having to get all of that done in practice. You have to do it where the contact is a little bit different than what it was even then when I was a rookie, and it's moving quick. It's moving at fast pace. That's when you have to lean on guys like Amendola. You got to lean on guys like Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay. It's going to give you a little leverage and say, listen, I'm going to bring you along and not be frustrated with you because it's rapid fire. And then you can run at full speed and not have to feel like I can't be a part of this playbook or this series because I'm not quite up to speed. But he's done a really good job. Quintez is really been kind of a bright spot for this team in the receiving unit.
He has, and I would venture to say he might be the rookie who has impressed in camp the most thus far. Of course, he had 7 touchdowns, 59 catches for 901 yards for Wisconsin last year. And even Jeff Okudah at the Combine, when he was asked which wide receiver he faced in college was the toughest, the name that came up was Quintez Cephus, and now they are teammates.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to play with 3 or 4 teammates when I got here. Greg Jeffries was a defensive back from the University of Virginia, and I had to face him, and then a couple other guys who played on the defensive unit, even played with my own former quarterback, Matt Blunden. Most people won't remember him when we were here, but it gives you, it kind of acclimates you a little bit quicker. I think it takes some of the edginess off. You have a familiar face that you can deal with. But this has been a good unit. I know things are shut down around here, but the players have corralled. I think they have adapted very well, and they understand what's at stake here, and they still have business to do.
Well, we're talking about the DBs that you're facing in practice. One of the guys that these wide receivers used to face in practice was Jamal Agnew, but now he is in their actual wide receiver room. Herman, what do you think about a DB joining the wide receiver room? Would that be hard for you to accept at first?
It would not be hard. Most people think, I know people have heard my story about me being a kicker at one point in my career,
right.
But I actually went to the University of Virginia, and I was a safety. There was a big guy, number 44, Derwin Griggs. First day we put on pads, came straight down, and we had to do just a hit and wrap. And all I remember him is stepping on my face, stepping on my chest, and he didn't even break stride. I went over to become a wide receiver, so I'll tell this to Jamal. It works. It's okay. Things will work out for you. I think it turned out okay. I think receiver worked out on my end.
I think it did.
I think for him, though, he brings a whole different thing to it because as a special teams player, he understands what it means to have the football in his hands. So he's not unfamiliar with running with the football. We've seen him do some packages offensively in the past and little things here and there. That transition is going to be the development of it will be based on Coach Bevel. It'll be based on how Coach Prince decides to use him. And quite honestly, is how they decide to kind of bring him into the fold. But I don't think they have to hold back with Jamal. I know this young man, and he's very excited about playing the position.
Absolutely. Well, we've got tight ends to talk about today as well. Like we said, if you're just now tuning in, there are no players out on the field right now because practice has been pushed back. We are still waiting to see when that time will be. But when it does happen, we will show you what's happening. We will show you the drills that are happening. But Herman, tell us a little bit about what we look for in tight end drills. I know that wasn't your position, but when it comes to tight end, what looks good in a drill that we're watching out on the field?
When I was in an interesting position. When I came in, Charlie Sanders, Hall of Famer, Detroit Lions legend, was my coach. So we actually did some things, especially blocking. People talked about blocking. So when you look at tight ends, it's all about that initial contact. It's about being aggressive at the line of scrimmage. It's about working against the linebackers and these physical safeties when they're there, and also having to support in the running game. Those are just part of what they do. And then it gets into the pass catching side of it when they have to go out and be a part of the package. So they have to work their footwork. They have to go out and do all the other things just like a wide receiver does because that becomes an extension of their position. So the tight end is kind of a unique position. I was considered a tweener, so I actually had to go down and work with the tight ends at times in my blocking and work on chipping the defensive end and doing those things and blocking some of the linebackers. So I don't know if we'll do that with any of our receivers. I don't think they need to do that because we got some pretty viable, pretty good tight ends in our end.
Absolutely. Well, TJ Hawkinson is one of those tight ends that we have to talk about today. You were high on him when you first joined the show when we were talking about that social poll and who would have the most touchdowns this season. You said you might go with TJ Hawkinson, so you expect him to have a big year.
I do. If he can remain healthy, and that's always the caveat for everyone. I saw a lot of things I liked in him, and the fact that he had really good hands. And as a tight end, he was able to beat defensive backs. He was able to beat safeties, and he was definitely able to go up and match up and create issues with your linebackers. So TJ, if utilized properly, and if Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay and these other guys get a lot of attention in the red zone, he could become the X factor that gets a lot of single coverage that could become big when you start talking about scoring touchdowns and putting points on the board.
Well, definitely staying healthy is important for him. He played 12 games last season before he went down with that ankle injury. He came back to camp looking jacked. This guy, his home workouts have worked for him, absolutely. He had 32 catches for 367 yards and 2 touchdowns last season. That was good for 11.5 yards per catch. But, of course, we know his best game last year was that game in Arizona. He had 131 yards in a touchdown. We didn't quite see that level of performance from him after that, but we sure did see a good performance from him in Arizona, and you hope that that's more of what we see from him more consistently throughout the season.
It's all about extracting that. When a player shows you that he has that ability and they're able to put up that type of production, you know that it's there. Therefore, all you have to do is bring it out, and you have to also put the system around that play to take advantage of whenever there's matchup problems. That will give you the opportunity to have a guy like TJ have those type of games. Will that be a norm? Probably not, but can he be a very impactful player? Can he keep chains moving? Can he help out in the running game? And he got bigger. And so when you look at that, that change is going to give him a whole different level of confidence. Also, in this, he's already wanting to block. That was never an issue on his end, but I think he's going to have even more confidence, and he's going to have more ability to separate from some of these linebackers that want to put their hands on him.
Well, one of the guys that is looking for more opportunities this season is Jesse James. He was signed with the Lions in free agency in 2019. There were high expectations for him. He signed a 4-year deal with the team. But then after that, the Lions drafted TJ Hawkinson, and he really did not get a lot of targets in 2019. Do you think Jesse James gets more involved in this offense this year?
It comes down to how they decide to use him. Big guy, he's tall, he's got range. Watched him when he played out in Pittsburgh, and he was a guy that came through at some critical times. What type of play they want to get out of Jesse, I'm not sure, but I think he brings a good counterbalance to what you get with TJ. TJ kind of gives you the size, he gives you the strength, he gives you kind of that all-purpose kind of guy. Where I think Jesse could come in and run the wing. He can also do some things to create some red zone issues, especially if they ever go to a 2 tight end set, which they probably won't do that often. But if they do, he's a good veteran guy. He's dependable, and I think if he can restore that confidence and get more plays out on the field, you'll see him being utilized a little bit differently.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of catches from Stafford. Most of his catches and his production came in the second half of the season after Matthew Stafford went down, and of course after TJ Hawkinson went down as well. That's when we saw Jesse James get a little bit more involved in that offense. But in Pittsburgh, where he was at before he was with the Lions, he had 30 catches for 423 yards in 2018, and one of the reasons why he signed with the Lions was because Pittsburgh had so many playmakers at the time, and he wanted to go somewhere where he could be used. But then, of course, the Lions ended up drafting a tight end in the draft, and now there are a whole lot of playmakers on this offense, and I think it's going to be tough for Darrell Bevell to decide where to spread that ball around this season.
Coach Bevell will appreciate the fact that he has that conundrum and the fact that he has to decide on how to use all these guys. What I see with the Lions this year, Tori, is this. It's always about remaining healthy. There's a great opportunity for them to do that right now. They have depth across the board in many positions, especially in the skill position. This is a very good offensive unit that has the opportunity to get off to a great start and a quick start, as long as they can keep guys healthy. We talk about some of the injuries that kind of derailed a few of these guys. We talked about the tight ends. We talked about Marvin Jones Jr. But if you can keep all those guys and you put those back in, I mean, it's a whole different type of game for this team.
Absolutely. There are going to be some tough decisions on this roster. When it comes to tight end, you figure TJ Hawkinson and Jesse James will definitely be on this roster, but who makes it beyond that? You're seeing footage of Isaac Nauta. He was a rookie last season, and he went this offseason and practiced with Matthew Stafford. He worked on that part of his game, but the Lions also brought in another tight end, an undrafted rookie free agent, and Hunter Bryant, a guy a lot of people thought was going to get drafted out of Washington. He didn't end up getting drafted. The Lions nabbed him in rookie free agency. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. He's missed a couple of days of practice due to injury. We'll see if he's able to get back out there when the players do take the field later on today. But, that tight end decision is going to be tough, too. Who makes it behind TJ and Jesse James?
That's a really tough one. You're going to keep, I think, the receiving unit. This is going to be probably more of a 3-receiver set type offense. I don't think they're going to need 3-4 tight ends. I think they're going to want to put that somewhere else. But you don't go out to practice that way. You go out to practice to make a difference, to go out to practice to earn a spot. None of these players are going to just give up that easily, even though they know that some of these guys like Jesse James and TJ have those solidified. You still got to go out and get it done.
Well, let's return back to that trivia question that we asked you guys earlier on in the show. We wanted to know if you guys know which Lions pass catchers have had seasons with 100-plus receptions. There are actually 5 times that this has been done in Lions history. Herman, take it away. You give us the answer.
Myself? Calvin Johnson, Brett Perriman.
You are correct. That is absolutely right.
Hey, what do I win?
You win an appearance on the show.
What else I get?
You've already claimed your prize.
Can I keep the shirt?
Yeah, you can keep the shirt. We'll let you keep the shirt. Absolutely. But you actually had it how many times?
I had it 3 times.
So you had it 3 out of the 5. The other 2 had 1 season apiece where that happened. So you claimed 3 out of the Lions' 100 plus receiving yard season.
And I get a free shirt.
And he gets a free shirt for it.
I get a free shirt. So see, if you do great things here, you get big packages.
Well, the shirt is for answering the trivia question. You obviously have lots of memories and pride from your playing days.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, you do. So we loved seeing you out there on the field, Herman. Man, it is fun to have you back here and talking about your playing days and talking about these wide receivers, because you were an impact player for the Detroit Lions.
I really appreciate it, and looking forward to a great year. Want everyone to stay safe and keep safe and do all the right things.
Well, we so appreciate you coming on the show today. That was today's show on wide receivers and tight ends, but we will be back on Friday with TJ Lang to talk about the defensive line. So we've got plenty more shows here for you. We are going to wrap up today's show on Training Camp Live presented by Rocket Mortgage. But don't worry, guys. You haven't been able to see a little bit of practice because we had to deal with a little bit of change in schedule today. The players are not out there on the field yet. They will be taking the field later on. But when that happens, we will be back live with you to show you those drills and those individual periods from practice. So we'll see what happens. Herman, I'm sorry that we didn't get to have players out here.
I don't know, Tori. If you want, I can put my mic down and go back and do a couple things in the background while you're talking.
I like that.
We'll do that. This will have you guys feeling good about it.
I like it. This works. Look, this is a perfect substitution for not having players on the field back behind us. We got Herman Moore out there doing a workout. He still got it. He's absolutely still got it. Guys, we will be back in just a little bit with more on the drills once the players take the field. But for now, we will leave you with highlights from the last week in practice, and I'm going to watch Herman back here.
Go.